Well, I finally made it. It only took 33 hours, but I actually made it. Yes, I finally made it to Japan, and I wanted to share my experience with you. Here on the second channel, I'm going to give some week-to-week updates about life abroad, and then on the main channel, I'll do a whole retrospective about what it was like when I returned to the US. I'll actually work on scripting that video while I'm here, so I can record as soon as possible. Please forgive me though, because the audio quality is just really bad because I'm not in my setup. But let's get started. Hajime. First thing for you to know, I'm on a business trip here through my company, and I'll be here for 2 months. I'm a process engineer, and the project I'm working on for my company is top secret. So important, in fact, that they were valuing my training in Japan so much that they sent me here, which is really awesome. This is something that's been a bit delayed for reasons I'll get into another time, but I was expecting to go in the spring, and now I'm here in the fall instead. The company is located in Sendai, so I had to make my way there as soon as I flew in, but I had a really rough trip. Now, it was my first time flying internationally, and I had a bit of anxiety going into it. I had a connecting flight to Seattle, but because of a 1 centimeter paint bubble in the back bathroom of the first plane, the flight attendant said it jeopardized the structural integrity of the plane, which resulted in me missing my flight by 5 minutes and having a 22-hour layover in Seattle. As someone who's worked for NASA and understands how pressurized cabins work, I will certainly rant about that later. But that's alright, because the next day rolls around and I have a 10-hour Japan Airlines flight to Haneda Airport. I was actually surprised how good the food on the plane was, and I enjoyed quite a few recent movies that I had missed out on. After arriving in the airport, they herded all the foreigners through COVID precautions that were in place even though the country still opened up to foreigners without a visa now. And let's talk about that. I hate to be that guy, but I need to know, why were there so many freaking neckbeards at the airport when I arrived? As I waited in the passport thumbprint check line, I noticed maybe 5 white guys in their mid to late 20s or early 30s, slightly balding, morbidly obese, wearing graphic sweatshirts with all their favorite anime waifus on them, glasses, and beanies. It was just incredibly strange to see them all crawl out from their bedrooms to make this trip. I just wish they had showered because the smell was repulsive. So my task was getting from Haneda Airport to Sendai, Japan that night. Our flight landed at about 3 p.m., and because of all the restrictions and guidelines at the airport, it took nearly 2 hours to get out. However, getting through the airport was pretty easy to navigate. There's a lot of English signs, directions, and helpers to show you where you need to go. I can't say the same for the subway system, though. I had the simple goal of getting to Tokyo Station, and then having the Shinkansen, or bullet train, take me to Sendai Station. How hard could that be? The answer is incredibly difficult. Now, I've taken about 2 years of Japanese in college and was practicing a lot at my company with my Japanese coworkers prior to the trip. But I was shocked at the fact that jumping straight in, nobody spoke English. Which, duh, you're in a different country, you should expect that. But I was barely getting by, not because I didn't understand them, but because they talk really, really fast. I'm still at that point where I have to think about what I'm saying, and I know most of the language besides kanji, the Chinese characters. So when I left the airport, they sent me to Shinagawa Station because the fare for the train tickets was cheaper there, and then I had to get to Tokyo Station. I just wish I had more subway experience growing up because I didn't expect the volume of people to be as large as it was. But funnily enough, I ran into a Midwesterner couple in their about early 50s, and I got some great advice on how to travel around the subway system. Since I was raised and born there, it was just cosmically hilarious that the only white people there were from the Midwest of America. I guess Midwesterners are like stand users, huh? So after spending a few hours trying to find my way around the trains, I did end up making it to the Shinkansen. And let me say, it's an awesome experience. You're going over 200 miles per hour, the seats are so comfy, and you don't even feel a thing. I passed out immediately as I got on it, but one of the workers was there to tend to me and make sure I was all right. And also let me know that there was a rare occurrence that the train was going to be late. Now I know it's rare, but they do not refund the ticket if the train is a few minutes late. My train was over 35 minutes late, but they still didn't refund it. So that's a myth that needs to be dispelled. But finally, late at night on Sunday, I was actually able to make it to Sendai, a city bustling with people even though it was the end of the weekend. I got to my hotel and I passed out. The next morning I woke up kind of early because the sun rises a little bit earlier here, especially without that pesky daylight savings time. So I decided to go exploring the city, and during the morning, here's some of the things I found. You can tell things are really different when compared to America. Street markets pop up with fresh produce, vending machines sell cigarettes, and the roads are narrow with the sidewalks being only a shoulder's width wide. Sendai is situated in the mountains, so it's so strange when the metropolis seamlessly blends with the forest. I wandered around taking pictures of everything I could find. I went to a diner, ordered in Japanese, and ate pork and rice over onions as my first meal there. They checked me out of the hotel really early, so I found myself staying in the shopping districts with my suitcases downtown. There, they had a Pokemon Center where I was able to buy an official Shuck plush, and the Jump Store, a store dedicated to all stuff Shonen Jump, and got myself a few copies of my favorite chapters of One Piece. In the afternoon, I got a little hungry again and went to a McDonald's because that's food that's familiar, and let me say, it was significantly better than what's there in America. The food quality was about the same, vegetables maybe slightly higher, but the way it was prepared was just so nice. It was so clean, it was so formal. The workers there looked like they were flight attendants. They brought you your food, they asked you how you were doing, asked what kind of business trip you were on. And it was much cheaper than it was in America, which now that I'm thinking about it, it was the best time for me to come. Because of the hyperinflation going on, I really got a good deal with the exchange rate. I met my company contact, a senior engineer, and he took me through my COVID test and then to my apartment. I could barely walk at my hotel, and don't get me wrong, my apartment's small, but at least it's livable. By the time I was cleared negative and settled into my place, it was about 4 p.m., and I decided to go with him back to the company. We stayed there for about 4 hours as I got situated and met everyone. The campus reminds me of Google or IBM or any of those major corps that have countless rows of desks as far as the eye can see. And after working there a few days, I can certainly say it's strange not to be able to see any natural light while I work, but it does make the days go faster. After work, him and one of the new engineers took me to some authentic Japanese cuisine, a place where they served yakitori, or skewered chicken, and we ate pretty much every part of the bird that was edible because it was excellently prepared. Whether it's the heart, the liver, you name it. I don't know, it was all great. I even got to try Odin because that's a funny One Piece reference. And then came lots of booze. A glass of authentic Japanese beer, Japanese gin and soda, and 3 bottles of sake, one traditional, one sweet, and one dry later, left both of my co-workers red in the face. Maybe it's my Greek or Italian heritage, but my tolerance for alcohol let me drink them under the table, and it was an absolute blast. The second day rolls around, and I get a little bit more situated at work. The hours are long, but it's like a different kind of long than compared to in the States. At the US office, we're customer facing, which puts an insane amount of pressure on the team to ensure that we're meeting expectations. That would be challenging enough, but we're also R&D. We're the only branch like that in America. The pressure is now on us more than any other place in the country. So it's nice to just sort of get back and have plenty of time to accomplish what you need to do here in Japan. Here's some quirky things about Japanese work culture though. We have to wear indoor shoes. You take your shoes off at the door like in every household and put them in lockers for the day and wear work shoes. A very traditional practice that kind of blindsided me when I first came here. Another thing is during your lunch hour, you're expected to not do work. The lights turn off and everyone files to the cafeteria. Food there is pretty good, but it is insanely cheap. So I'm going to take advantage of it. Except I noticed there's no water coolers or fountains anywhere. They have vending machines in the company, and I guess they make a killing since there's over 2,000 employees on site. Another super strange side note is the fact that every single toilet I've sat on has had a seat heater and a bidet. I tried the bidet for the first time in the hotel. It was alright. But I do have to say, seat heaters are pretty nice. I did notice that most toilets are separate from the bathrooms, which is another tradition carried over through many years. Every house used to have a toilet, but not a bathroom, since public baths were, and still to some extent are, common. But getting to my home the second night, I ran into some trouble. The key to my apartment is an automatic lock that has a number code to it, and it just stopped working. I tried putting it in 10 or 12 times, did not work one bit. So I ended up calling the senior engineer who picked me up, and he tried looking for hotels to stay in. Turns out the only ones that were available were Love hotels, but I wouldn't want to go there unless it was with a certain lucky lady. Also, I've heard the equivalent to most of them is a motel in the US, so take of that what you will. This guy, though, after knowing me for only a day, invites me to stay in his house of all places. And it's completely unreal how polite and how welcoming he was to a stranger. I even met his wife and his 9-month-old baby, who's actually just adorable, and I got a rare experience to see what basic family life was like in Japan. And that was just really eye-opening to me. Finally, after a night on the futon, I was able to get back into my apartment, where I am now, and a mechanic came to repair the faulty door lock. Now back on the work grind. I'll spare you some of the details because I'm contractually obligated to by the NDA, but the work environment as a foreigner is not too hard to adapt to. I have about a 5-minute train ride followed by a 25-minute bus ride to work every day. In Sendai, at least, there are cars literally everywhere, and I'm also a bit nervous how fast people drive on the very, very narrow streets. Back in the US, I like to work out and run a few miles twice a week, so I decided to do the same here. I even took my GoPro out for a spin so you could see my perspective of where I'm going through town, and it's kind of awesome. But it was a bit challenging because this terrain is much more mountainous than where I was before. Here I'm running up about 30-degree inclines, which certainly left my legs sore. I was running all over the place, and funnily enough, I didn't even have my phone on me, so I almost got lost because my goal was to just make 3 right turns and end up where I started. But after the second right turn, the road got twisty and I got a little confused, and I was going right, left, until I could spot the supermarket logo, and I knew where I was. Language-wise, I think I'm all right. I'm the youngest expat being sent from America, and I think that's partially because I understand some Japanese. On Friday, I gave my introduction presentation to my whole team in Japanese entirely. They were pretty impressed. I imagine they're not used to having English speakers come with some Japanese knowledge. However, for people who have came before, I don't know how they got around. Funnily enough, kanji, the one thing I do struggle with quite a bit and only know about 100 of, is something that the Japanese only know about 30% of, so I guess I feel a little less bad. And yes, the best part about being here is that weebs are accepted. Everyone is interested in me sharing the perspective of Japanese culture in America to them. As expected for someone living in Sendai, everyone, and I mean literally everyone, knows about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And that's because Hirohiko Araki, the mangaka who wrote JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, lives in this city right now. So he's like a citywide treasure. There's a JoJo travel guide of Sendai that I super need to pick up, but it's awesome. It's a nice secret, too, that one of my coworkers is actually the cousin of Araki, apparently. So I haven't met this employee yet, but that puts me 1 degree of separation from the man himself. No promises, but I'll see what I can do from there. Now, this video is being recorded Friday night, and I intend to do a lot of exploring of Sendai during my first weekend here. I still don't know what I want to do, but I want to get a bit more situated before I go traveling the rest of the country. If I have any cool pictures to share, they'll be up on the screen now. Sendai is a beautiful city from what I've seen so far, and there's tons of places to explore. There's a giant statue that I can see from my apartment, but I heard all the locals hate it, so I definitely want to check it out. There's a Date Masamune statue, and even a replica of his armor is in the atrium at work. People here seem to be pretty nice and really laid back compared to the brief time that I spent in Tokyo. But I want to do as much as possible, so next week when I have a 3-day weekend, I will be making my way to Tokyo to go exploring. But that's what's been going on here in Japan. I'm so glad that I finally made it here. It's been one of my dreams I've had for quite a while. Look forward to seeing more types of these short, quickly edited videos on the second channel. If you have any recommendations on things you would like me to do while I'm here, I will certainly be searching the comments for them. If I have to leave you with anything, I'll leave you with this. Never give up on your dreams. This was a dream I had for a long time. Many years, and I failed multiple times at getting to it. But I never gave up. And while I understand that I'm still in the honeymoon phase and the jet lag is just about wearing off, this is an experience that I'm gonna love and I'm gonna share with you. Thanks for watching, and Ja Mata Raishu.